The mop bucket rattled against his trembling hands as Marcus Whitfield stood outside the gleaming glass tower of Kestrel Dynamics, wondering how a man with a mechanical engineering degree had fallen so far that scrubbing floors felt like a miracle. If you believe in second chances, in kindness that shows up when you least expect it, smash that like button right now, drop a comment telling me you're watching, share this with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to Final Verdict, because this story is about to remind you why we never judge a person by the uniform they're forced to wear. Marcus hadn't always been invisible. 6 years ago, he was a rising design engineer at a mid-sized firm, the kind of father who packed his daughter's lunch with little notes tucked inside the napkin. Then his wife Renee died suddenly from an aneurysm, and grief swallowed him whole. He missed deadlines. He missed meetings. Eventually, he missed his job entirely. What followed was a slow, humiliating slide, savings drained by medical bills, then by rent, then by the simple cost of raising a 7-year-old girl named Josephine alone. By the time he stood in that lobby at 6 in the morning, application in hand, he wasn't thinking about pride. He was thinking about Josephine's worn-out sneakers and the eviction notice folded. In his jacket pocket, the janitorial supervisor, a tired but kind woman named Carla Bishop, looked over his resume with visible confusion. "You're overqualified for this," she said, not unkindly. Marcus simply replied that overqualified didn't pay the light bill. Carla, who had seen plenty of desperate men pass through her office, recognized something different in him. Not desperation alone, but quiet dignity, fighting to stay upright. She hired him on the spot. Night shift, minimum wage, mopping floors, in the very industry he once dreamed of leading. The building itself was owned by Kestrel Dynamics, a robotics and clean energy company that had exploded in value over the past few years, thanks largely to its brilliant, notoriously private CEO, a man known only through headlines and boardroom legends. Adrian Kestrel. Employees whispered about him constantly. He was young, ruthless in negotiations, generous to charities, and almost never seen walking the floors himself. To Marcus, he was just a name on a directory sign, a stranger whose success felt like it belonged to a different universe entirely. For months, Marcus worked in the shadows of that universe. He came in after the offices emptied, pushing his cart past darkened cubicles filled with the ghosts of ambition he once had. He cleaned conference rooms where million-dollar deals were made hours earlier. He emptied trash cans stuffed with crumpled prototype sketches, some of which made his engineer's mind ache with recognition. He could see the flaws in their designs, the inefficiencies no one else seemed to notice. But he said nothing, saying something wasn't his job anymore. Surviving was, at home, in a cramped one-bedroom apartment above a laundromat. Josephine waited for him every evening with a resilience that broke his heart. She never complained about the thin walls or the second-hand clothes. She just asked him every single day, "Did you have a good day, Daddy?" And every single day, Marcus lied and said yes, because some truths were too heavy for a child to carry. Then came the afternoon. Everything changed. Not at night, as Marcus's shifts usually ran, but during a rare daytime assignment when Carla asked him to help prepare the executive floor for an emergency board meeting. It was the first time Marcus had ever set foot on the 40th floor while the sun still lit the windows, and the first time he would ever come face to face with Adrian Kestrel himself. Marcus was straightening chairs in the private boardroom when the door opened, and a tall man in a tailored charcoal suit walked in, reviewing documents on a tablet without even glancing up. "You can finish after the meeting," Adrian said absently, waving a dismissive hand, still not looking at the man in the gray janitorial uniform. Marcus, used to being unseen, simply nodded and reached for his ID badge to clip it back onto his belt. The badge Carla had given him that morning, printed hastily with his full legal name because his temporary one had smudged. It was in that motion, that simple mundane motion, that Adrian's eyes flicked toward him and froze. The tablet slipped slightly in his grip. His face, usually composed with the practiced neutrality of a man who'd spent a decade in high-stakes rooms, drained of color. He stared at the badge, then at Marcus's face, studying it the way someone studies an old photograph, searching for lines memory refuses to let go of. "Marcus Whitfield?" Adrian asked, his voice barely above a whisper, cracking in a way that startled everyone in the room, including 2 board members who'd just walked in behind him. Marcus blinked, confused, guarded. Yes, sir. Adrian took a step closer, and something in his controlled, billionaire composure completely dissolved. You don't remember me, he said, not as a question but as a quiet realization. When Marcus shook his head slowly, Adrian let out a breath that seemed to carry years of buried weight. Westbrook Elementary. Mrs. Holloway's class. You used to share your lunch with me because my mom couldn't always afford to pack one. You defended me when kids made fun of my stutter. You told me I'd do something great one day. The memory hit Marcus like a wave crashing over dry sand. A scrawny, stammering boy named Adrian who used to sit beside him. In 3rd grade, a boy who moved away after 4th grade and whom Marcus, in the chaos of his adult life, had completely forgotten. Adrian Kestrel? You were Adrian Cole back then. My stepfather's name, Adrian said, his eyes glassy now. Unashamed of it, in front of his stunned colleagues. I changed it years ago. But I never forgot you, Marcus. I never forgot what you did for a kid nobody else wanted to sit with. The boardroom fell into a silence so profound that Carla, standing near the doorway, would later describe it as feeling like the entire building had paused to breathe. Adrian asked gently, disbelievingly, why a man of Marcus's education and talent was pushing a mop cart through his company's halls. And Marcus, stripped of pretense in that unexpected moment, told him everything. Renee's death, the spiral, the sneakers, Josephine's brave little face every evening asking if he'd had a good day. Adrian didn't offer pity. He offered something far more powerful, recognition. Within that same week, he created a position in Kestrel Dynamics Advanced, designed a vision specifically to bring Marcus back into the world he'd been engineered for, not as charity. But because Adrian had reviewed the sketches, Marcus made notes on during his cleaning shifts. Sketches Carla had quietly saved and shown him, revealing an engineer whose instincts hadn't dulled one bit despite everything he'd endured. 3 months later, Marcus stood in a new apartment, sunlight pouring through real windows, watching Josephine do homework at a kitchen table that wasn't borrowed or secondhand. When she asked him that evening if he'd had a good day, for the first time in years, he didn't have to lie. He simply smiled, pulled her close, and told her that sometimes when you've given everything you have to someone once, even in the smallest way, the universe remembers to give it back. If this story moved you even a little, if it reminded you that kindness never truly disappears, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment sharing your thoughts, and share it with someone who might need a little hope today. And before we close this chapter, I want to ask something special. From you, type second chances in the comments if you believe no act of kindness is ever wasted, no matter how small or how long ago it happened. Marcus Whitfield never set out to be remembered. He simply lived with decency in a moment that seemed insignificant at the time, sharing a lunch, defending a lonely boy, offering warmth, without expecting anything in return. Yet decades later, that same decency reached back through time to lift him out of his darkest chapter, proving that the good we put into the world rarely vanishes completely. It waits patiently, sometimes for years, for the exact moment we need it most to come home.